Hi, my name's Hudson, and I'm a geoholic.
I tasted fire, I'm ready to come alive. I can't just shut it up and fake that I'm alright. I'm ready now, I'm not waiting for the afterlife.
Oh man, I love that song. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for listening to episode 58 of the Geoholics podcast, also known as the
Shout out to Jake, the Derek Thomas episode.
I like it.
You gotta honor that guy. I remember seeing something on SportsCenter or one of those 30 for 30s about him. He was all involved with the military and stuff because his dad was
good guy.
military. Good guy though.
Yep.
Facts about him: his life. University of Alabama, 1988 Butkus Award winner, unanimous All-American. 89 first round, 4th pick overall to Jake's Kansas City Chiefs. 9-time Pro Bowl, 3-time first team All-Pro, 3-time second team All-Pro.
Wow.
Defensive Rookie of the Year in 89, sacks leader in 1990, 1990s All-Decade team. He had 7 sacks in one game at one point.
God. Is that a record?
Yeah, it is. Posthumously inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame in 2009, and his number 58 is retired by the Chiefs.
Great choice.
Yeah, I shared this a little bit before, but I was him one year for Halloween. I'm sure when my dad listens to this, he'll be able to text me and know how old I was, but I was a little guy.
Wow, I hope there's a picture of that.
And if your
There is, I think, somewhere.
If your face was painted and there's a picture of that somewhere out there, you have no chance in politics.
I don't think I'd do that.
I don't know. With the political climate now, you can get away with just about anything.
Yeah, right. All right, folks, we can't say it enough. Thank you so much for listening and for your continued support. We love each and every one of our listeners, I think it's fair to say. Now that we've softened you up a little bit, please consider joining the Geoholics fan club. As a reminder, if you make a $50 contribution to the Geoholics GoFundMe page, you are going to receive an unprecedented Geoholics fan pack that Shoots will personally put in the mail to you.
Yes.
And it will include a Geoholics t-shirt, couple wristbands, couple stickers, couple koozies, couple temporary tattoos, courtesy of DBLS, and a Geoholics pint glass. Our guest today is a proud recipient of one of these packages. Hopefully he's gotten it by now.
I hope so.
And we'll have to get his unbiased review a little bit later on in the show. So before I forget, also do us a favor and subscribe to the Geoholics YouTube channel. It's kind of cool. You can actually connect our voices with our ugly mugs.
There we
go.
go.
Yeah.
Well, speak for yourself on the ugly mug contest there. Must say I did ship everything out. I was a little behind schedule, and then I get the warning every time I go ship stuff out. They're like, no guarantees.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
if it takes longer or if it doesn't show up, just let us know. It's, again, COVID. I literally get the warning every time I go see the guys at the UPS store. So
Yep. Well, checks in the mail regardless.
Exactly. Hey, if you don't get it, you call me. I send it again.
All right. The opening number, of course, is Switchfoot. The name of the song is Afterlife. Switchfoot is an American rock band from San Diego, California. After early successes in the Christian rock scene, Switchfoot first gained mainstream recognition with the inclusion of 4 of their songs in the 2002 movie A Walk to Remember. Did you see that one, Shoots?
No, I don't even know what that one is.
I have not seen it either. I think it's one of those, I don't know.
That sounds way too
love story things. I don't know.
It sounds way too girly for me.
2002. That was a long time ago. How old are you?
I was in
2002?
high school still.
Oh, yeah. I'm surprised you didn't see that.
I didn't have a date.
This recognition led to their major label debut, The Beautiful Letdown, which was released in 2003 and featured the hits Meant to Live and Dare You to Move. This album sold over 2.6 million copies. The name Switchfoot comes from a surfing term. I did not know this, thanks to Wikipedia, meaning to switch your feet or take a new stance facing the opposite direction. That's where the name of the band came from. They're all from San Diego, surfers and stuff like that. So
makes sense.
I was really excited actually when our guests this week picked this band, as I actually took my kids to see them play after a Diamondbacks game. Like we first moved out here, how they have concerts after the game sometimes. Well, Switchfoot played one time.
Nice. Now
And,
it's like Los Lonely Boys.
Oh,
and
yeah, exactly. But
not quite as rock friendly.
Right. It was a number of years ago. But regardless, great band, great message. And just so you guys know, you heard that right. If you are a guest on a show, a future show, and you weren't aware of this, the guest actually gets to pick the music. So it's kind of cool, little personalized touch on the episode. So
We like the guests to feel welcome.
exactly. So let's get to our friends of the program. Before we do, we've opened up our 2021 friend of the program opportunities to anyone interested, as we do have a couple slots left to fill. Here's what you're going to get: a customized promo read each and every week. A link to your website will be posted on the Geoholics website. Check that out as well if you haven't. There will also be a link to your website on the Geoholics app, which can be downloaded from Land Surveyors United. You also get your very own exclusive podcast to promote whatever the heck you want. And also check out my hat. Bad Elf, one of our friends of the program. If you are a friend of the program and you send us swag, we'll wear it.
We're
Equal
we
opportunity
can be
promoters.
bought. we can be bought.
Exactly. And just another thing, I mean, you know what? One of our goals, of course, is add value, make friends. We say it all the time, right? It's kind of our mantra, we'll say. And another thing that has been a byproduct of this, we have these friends of the program. We have people on that have interests and things like that, and then we start connecting friends with friends, and next thing you know, you just have this unbelievable network, and it's really, really cool to see stuff like that kind of blossom. So reach out to us at info@thegeoholics.com for more info. This is a great opportunity to promote you and or your company. Speaking of Bad Elf, you can find them at bad-elf.com, and they are developing high-accuracy GPS receivers for all-day data collection, that being the Flex, which is pretty slick, and thanks to Dr. Nick Smolowski for his Bad Elf Tech Minute each and every week. Last thing I want to mention about that, if you mention that you heard about the Flex on the Geoholics, you'll receive $100 off your purchase and one of these really cool hats.
Yes. We didn't have to buy a Flex for these. Next up, we got Land Surveyors United, the largest global community of geomatics professionals on the internet. Justin Farrow has developed his website, landsurveyorsunited.com. Go check it out. Take 5 minutes, become a member, and also that's where you can find the Geoholics app.
Yes. Check out the app. Super cool. Next, we got LiDAR News, the virtual home of the LiDAR industry. They strive to provide their readers and sponsors with the most current information about 3D laser scanning, LiDAR, unmanned aerial systems, and Shoots' favorite thing, photogrammetry.
Yay.
The LiDAR News team focuses on the application of technology to solve 3D problems. Find them at lidarnews.com.
Now we'll talk about Ken's favorite thing, Parkland College, their land survey program in Champaign, Illinois. They have 2 schedule options, which provide opportunities to both traditional and working adults to achieve a certificate or associate's degree in land surveying. More information for them at parkland.edu/surveying.
It's going to be really interesting when we have Corey on next year, because they re-upped as a friend of the program. Find out how these 2 different schedule options have changed as a result of COVID.
Yeah,
So
it's all online at this point, but how do
gonna be-
you learn survey just online?
Not sure.
All right,
Sure.
we'll
We're going
look
to actually
forward to
talk about that in a little bit. Next, we got Unifly. Scott Ohana and his team have developed a one-stop UAV shop. Check out the How We Work link at unifli.aero to find out more.
And then we got Diamondback Land Surveying, Trent Keenan, specializing in residential, commercial, and public works projects. They are corporate offices in Las Vegas, but they're licensed to work across the West. They are also proud sponsors and brand ambassadors of Get Kids Into Survey and Mentoring Monday.
Absolutely.
So look it up at diamondbacklandsurveying.com, getkidsintosurveying.com, Mentoring Monday.
A lot of stuff going on.
He's a busy dude.
He is indeed. A lot of passion with that guy. Next, we got Advanced Geodetic Surveys. Check them out at agsgps.com. Unbeatable deals on new and used equipment. In fact, I just went to their website today, and they got like 25% off all this stuff. I don't know. They got some really good stuff going on right now. In addition to that, if you use promo code GEO15, you will save 15% off all regular price field supplies, accessories, and safety equipment. I don't know if that's in addition to the 25%.
Well, I would say regular
So,
price, 25% off is not regular price. Is that like a Black Friday deal? Like
I don't
see.
know. I don't know.
Now that we all can't leave our homes at all, it's like everybody's selling everything early. So we don't have to have the mobs at the stores.
And I'm still shocked they're calling it Black Friday.
It's,
In these sensitive times, I
Hey,
mean, come on, they got to come up with something.
you're
better
in the
than
red
that.
all year, which is bad enough, and then you get to the black, so you just lose all around.
I
It's
know.
the Washington football team.
Oh. Okay.
Next, we got Tiger Supplies, the surveying, construction, and engineering superstore with over 15,000 products featuring top brands such as Leica, Topcon, Spectra, and much more. They'll get you the equipment you need to get the job done right. Use promo code GEO15 for 15% off any Adair Pro item. Also, don't forget to check out their YouTube page for product videos, tips, and tricks.
Really good. What else? Oh, last but not least, Cyanic Automation. These guys are doing some really cool stuff with survey companies up in Canada, developing new ways to collect daily work records and timesheets directly from the field, automate invoicing, search jobs by legal addresses. Really cool, helpful stuff like that. Check out JobBook by going to their website, getjobbook.com. They are solving operational problems to make your business life easier. Who doesn't need that? Also tell them you heard about it from the Geoholics. They'll give you 20% off their first year subscription. Talk to those guys today, as a matter of fact. They also are re-upping for 2021. If we can figure out how to get Canadian money into the States. And Jake, Mr. Banker over here.
Are they good guys, though?
The real good guys.
Glad to hear they're good guys,
Yeah,
though.
they're good guys. yeah. But he did. I guess where I was going with that, he told me they just signed up a company in Texas that heard about them on the Geoholics.
Oh,
So
man.
that's pretty
Making
cool.
it happen.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Here we are in Cobb Fenley Susu Studio. Quick shameless plug. Cobb Fenley's mission is to collaborate with employees and clients to provide engineering solutions that further their commitment to growth in the community. It's a mouthful. Check them out at cobbfenley.com to find out more. With that, let's catch up the boys. Producer Jake, what's up, man?
How's it going, guys? I have some space-related
I
news.
knew it was coming.
Yeah, as you can imagine. These just absolutely dominate my weekend whenever stuff like this happens. I super look forward to it. I actually did watch a little bit of an Elon small documentary today that really just got me going. Love that stuff. So anyway, over the weekend, SpaceX Crew Dragon Resilience, which is absolutely, they always get the perfect name. They nail these things.
Yep.
Just docked last night, successful docking with the International Space Station. 4 astronauts will be on there for a 6-month stay. So this is the first time that a commercially run company has launched a NASA mission. I know Bob and Doug went up earlier this summer, but that was kind of a demo. This is for real. So pretty cool to see that. That's a huge advancement for the commercial aerospace industry. And one little quick fact, too, is I know when Bob and Doug went up, and this is kind of became like a big story, is everything in that capsule is squeaky clean, strapped down, whatnot. But there's one thing that's always not, and it's last time it was they call it the gravity indicator, but it was like this plush purple dinosaur. I'm not sure if you remember it or not. But basically this thing is set to when they get into orbit or close to orbit, when they start experiencing zero gravity, this thing will basically go and float around, and it's your gravity indicator. So they like to pull out a new one every time, and this time around it was this little stuffed baby Yoda. So pretty topical, Star Wars and whatnot. So, those guys, they hit everything. I know you watched the broadcast,
Yeah, it was
and
awesome.
everything they say is just so perfect,
It's
and
great.
some of those words, like right after launch, like it's just so powerful. So
Oh, yeah, it gives you the chills.
yeah.
For sure. Did you hear the story about Elon? I heard he got tested 4 times in one day for COVID.
50-50.
And same test, same nurse, same conditions, same everything. Twice positive, twice negative.
Yeah, I did see that. I don't know. I haven't seen if he's done anything additional. I know that he did miss out on being there in Hawthorne at Mission Control.
Yeah, I heard that, yeah.
Because of that, but I haven't
But
seen
still, it's
anything
crazy.
further.
He's probably like, test me. Like,
I think he's trying to prove a point,
well,
Yeah.
He is always thinking outside the box.
For
so
sure, yeah.
He's going to think inside the box and hire Jake here one day, and then we're going to be screwed without a producer. But
Yeah, right, exactly.
I wish.
So if you like the Geoholics, do not let Elon steal Jake. I got to tell you guys, I had the most boring week of my life in the last week.
Oh, boy.
It's absolutely nothing going on.
It's quiet, huh?
I go golfing, I work, and that's it. That's
Well,
life.
That's
at
not
this
so
point.
bad,
Not
though.
a bad life.
No,
Yeah.
it's not bad. I think I shot an 80. No, it was a 91 the other day. So.
Nice.
Augusta?
No, not quite. Getting there eventually. It was the Duke, actually, down in Maricopa.
Yep.
So I drove 45 minutes to golf. Wasn't the greatest idea, but all the prices are going up right now in this time of year. But, hey, we love it in Arizona. It was 90 degrees today. But Other than
too
that,
hot.
like, I don't have much to add to this. I
got the
feel
Masters.
bad.
Your
Oh
boy?
yeah, oh yeah, Dustin Johnson, my boy. You guys still haven't paid me yet.
Yeah, does that declare the winner?
Checks in the mail.
Yeah, exactly. It was what, $20
Just
a
like the fan
piece?
packs.
Yeah.
Plus, I actually picked the winner, so I got more money. I was never that into the Masters before in my life, and I had the last pick. How did you guys let that happen?
20 under.
I don't know.
Yeah, crushed
Insane.
it. And you took John Rahm. I was like, he took my pick. So
Yeah, I thought I had.
Well-
I thought I was lined up pretty good after the first 2 days. I'm like, something's gonna have to go really good or really bad for me not to win. And sure enough, Dustin Johnson just he dominated.
oh yeah,
It was
I mean, I
awful.
rolled the dice and ran with Vegas, which was
Yeah.
they thought he was going to break the course, DeChambeau, and
Yeah.
Yep.
of course not.
Yep. Hey,
Late
gotta
in
give-
he's that guy's just a beast.
he
And then
is.
real quick too, Tiger with the 10 strokes on hole
Oh,
12.
that was ugly.
insane.
That was ugly.
That's like me bad.
Yeah, me bad as well, no doubt.
What about you, Ken? What's going on?
Yeah, well, speaking of golf, the lovely Megan and I were up in Pine this weekend, and of course, getting out of this rat race, and played some golf in Payson, and she beat me, hands down,
Ugh.
fair and square.
She
40. She had a
uses-
43. I think I shot a 47, and she played really good. She's a good golfer.
Well, there's two things.
Yeah.
I think you got to start playing from the ladies' tees. You are getting a little older.
I should. Yep, I
you
think
know.
those are the senior tees as well.
Yeah, you get to the
Yep.
Champions Tour like yourself.
Yep.
It's acceptable.
All right.
And two, was she a good winner, or are you still hearing
she's
about
a pretty, No, she's a good winner.
Okay.
She's a good winner. yeah.
I've seen her in the heat of battle with you. She
Yeah.
takes that
She's pretty competitive.
seriously.
When it comes to curling or golf or whatever, she takes that stuff much more serious than I do. I'm there to drink the beer.
Oh, easy enough.
Yeah. But I do want to take a little bit of my time for a PSA. So, and this, I don't want to be a downer here, but I do think this is something that's really important to talk about. I was talking to my oldest daughter yesterday, and she shared with me that Jake, you're probably aware of this. Two people that went to her and Presley's high school committed suicide in the last 2 weeks.
Holy schmoes.
Not, I mean, unrelated, two different
Yeah.
people, but, young adults, of course. And, it's my understanding these were kids that, on the surface had everything going for them, good looking kids, tons of friends,
College.
everything. So, point being is this, we could talk about this forever, but because I get pretty passionate about this, but there are a ton of people facing, various hardships right now because of the pandemic. On top of that, now we've got the usual holiday stresses and everything. I mean, the three of us are very fortunate, to have what we have, jobs, comfortable way of life and everything like that. But you just never know. And I mean what I'm about to say. If anybody listening needs someone to talk to, I mean, send me an email. Seriously, I'll send you my cell phone number and we'll talk and take a minute, literally a minute for, anybody listening, and check in with your kids, your family, your friends, even your coworkers. Most of the time you don't know who's dealing with what until it's too late, And, I saw this meme, it kind of sums it up, and it said, I pray that my friends get through the battles they don't talk about. That's pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to leave it at that.
And if you prefer my company over Kent's, email him and he can send you my cell phone number.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can join me on my evening walks.
We may sound like idiots on here, but we're actually pretty down to earth and pretty much got our heads on straight. All right, let's move on. Safety Apparel Safety Share. Matthew Stansberry, of course, has developed the best safety vests on the planet, a.k.a. the Party Chief. You can check them out at safetyapparel.us, and be sure to check out all the Safety Apparel social media platforms. They're always posting really cool pictures and giveaways and all that stuff. And Mr. Stansberry's got a really good thing going on. I saw him post a picture of like a kilt that was made out of like safety vest material, like the safety kilt or whatever. I think it was a joke, but I'm just as an example, some of the funny stuff that he posts.
That
We need to send one of those to Gary from last week.
We could. We'd freaking love that. So, Shoots, what's the safety share for this week?
It's short and simple. Don't take shortcuts on tasks or procedures. You've preached this 100 times before in every past position you have, current position you have. Some employees will cast caution to the wind in order to save time, but what they don't always realize is that tasks have been carefully thought out to prevent safety issues, even if they do require a little more time. Let employees know that if there were a quicker way, you'd already be doing it.
Yep.
Remind them about the importance of following procedures to the letter for their own safety and sake.
Yep. And a great example just happened today. One of my party chiefs was working at a job. He calls me up and he's like, I know this wasn't something you wanted me to shoot, but I found this, Town of Aurora benchmark and I shot it. And I'm like, that's awesome. What did it say on it? Or he's like, it said this. And I'm like, did you take a picture of it? because procedure is take a picture of anything you shoot, and he just stopped for like 10 seconds. He's like, I didn't. I didn't. He's like, I know I should have. He's like, I've effed up, He's like, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. But it's just little things like that, you know? I mean, yeah, just follow procedures.
Exactly. They're there for a reason.
Yep. So our guest this evening is Ben Shinabery, and a couple little bio things here I want to throw out there. And first and foremost, he provided the best guest-provided bio ever. Ben has been surveying for about 35 years, and like myself and many others, has taken the long way to becoming a licensed surveyor. We'll get into that here in just a bit. Born in Michigan, but joining us this evening from Kentucky, where he currently resides. This is interesting. He has completed surveys in 116 of 120 counties in Kentucky. Pretty cool. He has a collection of axes, makes his own throwing knives.
Okay.
Interesting.
Don't mess with him.
His current role is he's a vice president for a company called QK4. And more important than all that, he went out of his way to be the 100th subscriber to the Geoholics YouTube channel.
Yes.
So
Jake appreciates that.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yep. So we absolutely love this guy already. So Ben, welcome to the show. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Thanks, Phyllis. I appreciate the offer to come on. I was surprised that the safety moment this week wasn't for the Indiana surveyors looking for section corners and get 2-pound bags of flour dropped off from the airplane. That got worked in there somehow.
We're saving that for May of next year.
Yeah.
It's in the back pocket.
Watch out for falling bags of flour. Yeah, crazy. So we do want to circle back on a few bio items before we get into this. Being a what do they call it? A Michiganian? Michigander?
Yeah.
All right.
Come on, you know that.
So where were you born in Michigan?
All good Michiganders put the hand and then they point to it. So I was born in Jackson.
Okay.
And lived in Jackson for 18 years, but then went to college in Florida, in Pensacola. And so from Michigan to Florida, my wife and I got married down in Florida, and then I worked for a surveyor down in Pensacola. But I missed the snow, and my wife said she would never move back to Michigan. So we kind of landed in Kentucky after a while.
Gotcha.
But I really like Michigan. The season changes doesn't really bother me. The summers are really nice. The winters can be harsh, but layer up and you're good.
Absolutely. And what I always tell people, me being from Chicago, we spent a lot of time primarily in southwestern Michigan, like Benton Harbor and South Haven and those areas. And when you're on those beaches in Michigan and you're looking out west across Lake Michigan, you feel like you're in California. You don't know any better because, you can't see the other side.
As far as you can see.
I mean, you feel like you're in California. The beaches are absolutely amazing. Michigan is one of my favorite places to visit. Again, I wouldn't want to live there, but it is a beautiful state. No question about it.
Well, the good thing is Ben left and didn't go to one of those two loser schools right now. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, struggling there, huh? Wow.
Made the right choice going down to Florida.
Yep, no doubt. So just tell us real quick about your interest in axes and knives. How did that start, and what keeps you interested in that?
So the surveyor that I work for in Florida, he never let us use machetes. We would always use a brush axe because the machete would go through the branch and then into your kneecap. So we always use a brush axe when we were out in the field, because you can use it for a steady stick. You can use it to hop fences. If you put it through the fence corner, you step on the axe handle and you go right over, and then you've got a step coming back down the other side. So he actually was an axe guy. So more than splitting axes, I'm into brush hooks, brush axes. You got your 3-bolt brush hook, your 4-bolt brush hook, you got a regular axe handle hook. And so all of that, I've got probably 8 different brush hooks. My wife tells me I can't buy any more, but they always end up in my barn. So that's how it got started.
So maybe you should, almost like Matthew Stansberry started the safety vest thing, maybe you should start Ben's brush hooks.
There we go.
Yeah. It might be
But then we started throwing axes, the little hatchet axes. And I did that because all these little throwing axe bars are popping up around. And I thought, if I'm going to get good at this, I don't want to pay the cover charge to get in and then look like a fool. So I started buying some hatchets and then built our own targets. And my son and I throw axes, and he liked the knives. So we actually bought some edger blades, like for
Mhm.
a little sidewalk edger,
Mhm.
cut those right into a nice knife size. And that's how we started making knives for throwing.
Interesting. So let's kind of get into your survey career here and how you got to where you are now. And something you said that was very interesting is you started out working for your dad, and to your benefit, he was an early adopter of survey technology, and that's where you kind of established a foundation of the fundamentals working with your dad. So talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, he worked for himself. So, like a lot of surveyors, small business, you're scraping by, and anything that he could do to create efficiencies within the workflow. He worked for an engineering firm laying out bridges in the 80s in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So he would be a construction layout guy for engineering firm, but then the recession hit and he got laid off and kind of went out on his own and worked for other land surveyors as they had open capacity. He had one guy that he hired, so it was just him and another guy. I remember when he was looking into and buying equipment, he would tell stories to his friends. One guy would always ask him if he was out standing in the field the week, and that meant he was making money if he was out surveying. And he was telling him, yeah, I bought a total station that has electronic distance measurement. And he was amped about being able to take shots from the total station. And just the excitement that I could see when he found a new tool that he had an advantage by. So I remember back in the days of the 286 and 386 computers, he had AutoCAD version, and he was an early adopter of field to finish codes.
Hmm.
And he would go out with his 48 and the environmental case and take a load of shots in the day and then bring it back and download. And then as the download happened, he'd hit start on the computer and then go to bed, and the computer would draw all of his field to finish lines for him, which was an advantage back in the early 90s because some crews were still running 3 or 4 guys and doing plain table, drafting and all of that. But he would just run his raw data file, output the field to finish codes, and have AutoCAD draw it. So growing up in that kind of survey environment, I didn't realize it then, but it taught me a lot about being able to work and the expectations of working outside and then producing drawings that were more valuable than sometimes the guys that hired him. Their field crews weren't as efficient as he was.
Yeah, that's awesome that you had that experience early on. Did you ever work with the computers that were like dual floppy, like the 5 1/4 inch? I mean, that's kind of how I started. I know I'm aging myself, but yeah. Did you have that, or did you start a little bit after that?
Actually, before that, with the big Commodore
Hmm.
128,
Oof.
where you hook it into your TV
Yep.
and you learn basic programming and DOS commands and all of that. I remember using those old computers. Going through high school, we learned basic programming. So all of that growing up was a part of my normal life. Yeah.
What was your biggest takeaway working with your dad?
He is kind of a laid back guy. He enjoyed what he did. He was a grinder. So, he was out there every day working for himself. Sometimes survey doesn't always pay the bills. So he had other little businesses that he did. He managed newspaper delivery routes for the Detroit News and Free Press. And that was a morning newspaper. So he would work that from like 3 to 4 in the morning and then come home and sleep and then go back out to work. So it takes a lot of energy to do and work hard for your family sometimes. So, you know, surveying is a tough job, but it is rewarding. And if we have the expectation that this is what it takes to get the job done, I think that is what taught me the most.
Interesting. And yet that tells me, besides being stubborn, if surveyors are nothing else, they're resourceful. Absolutely, no question. So I think it's important that our guests, especially surveyors, get to talk a little bit about their mentors. So of course you have your father. If I read your bio correctly, you had your next survey opportunity was with another old school surveyor by the name of Oscar Pittman, and that was actually in Florida. Tell us your kind of the main takeaways from that experience.
Sure. After college, I needed a job. My wife was still in school. She had 2 years left, and we lived in Pensacola. So I knew surveying, and I was looking through the paper, and there was an ad in the paper for a rod man. And I didn't know what actually it said a rod and chain man. I didn't know what a chain man was, because my dad did everything on his data collector with his total station. So I applied at Oscar Pittman's work there in Pensacola, and he hired me on, and he would rather chain a distance than shoot it in with a total station, because he had worked for 40 years and was really old school. So I knew, and I had seen a plumb bob before, but I never really used one. And so Oscar Pittman told us how to pull chain, measure distance, buck and angle, you know, all the old surveyor classic stuff. He was really a good boss. He had high expectations on us. When I started, the first day, my crew chief asked me, "Have you ever set up an instrument?" I said, "Yeah, I can set up an instrument." So we started, and at that time we ran 3-man crews, but my crew chief had an instrument man that didn't want to run the instrument, and as a crew chief he wanted to run the book. So they stuck me on the instrument, standing there taking shots all day. But then Oscar Pittman also had, when you were ready to move up to be a crew chief, he had the crew chief exam that you had to take. So he had his own exam for his crew chiefs, and he required the crew chiefs to buy their own HP 48, which kind of gave him the indication that this potential crew chief valued the position enough to spend money to get the equipment to do it. So I took the time and took the crew chief test, and then became a crew chief for Oscar there in Pensacola, and worked in Pensacola for 6 years after college, starting at rod and chain man and working up through crew chief position.
That's awesome. The crew chief exam is freaking genius. Do you have a copy of that by chance?
I do not.
That would be awesome to have that, because you think about it. I mean, nowadays anybody can be a crew chief. I mean, if you can run the instrument, you're considered a crew chief.
There you go.
And it would be awesome to drop that crew chief exam in front of some of the crew chiefs that are out there today. That'd be awesome. So, so from there, you went to a company called Dunaway Engineering, and that was in Kentucky, I believe, and you had an opportunity to work on the Ohio River Spaghetti Junction Bridge. I'm somewhat familiar with that. I think I actually drove over it at one point. But, man, that had to be a really cool experience.
Yeah, I worked for Dunaway Engineering. They were a woman-owned business, and a part of the team that did the Ohio River Bridges project. And we started that project back in 2004. And a lot of people don't think about how long a DOT project has when it goes through its planning phase, then survey, then design phase, and is let to construction and finally gets built. And it might be a 20-year project. But being a part of that team, out working at Dunaway, they told me, okay, you're going to be working as a field crew for QK4, was the prime engineering firm on that project. And the first day I went out there, I met who would be my future boss, Jim Krauth. And instead of him just using me as a field crew that day, he handed me the book and said, okay, you're in charge. I need the distance on the existing bridge over the water. And so we had to, calculate double shoot it from both ends so that we could figure out the height of the existing bridge. And then they were designing a separate bridge right next to it. So if anyone looks at Louisville, Kentucky, you'll see the main downtown bridge that crosses the Ohio River and connects I-64, I-71, and I-65 together in one huge interchange downtown. And they handed me the field book and said, you're in charge of Spaghetti Junction, anything that we need located. So we located the bridge, the existing bridge, and the subsurface utilities and existing roadway, everything there, mapped it all out in 2004. The bridge did get built and finally designed and built in 2016. Everyone walked across it the first time, and our company was really happy because that project is a legacy project for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you must have done a great job, because as a result of that experience, that's how you got the opportunity to work with QK4, correct?
Yeah, I told Jim Krauth that I was putting my resume out and I wanted him as a reference on my resume. And he said, oh, you're looking for a job? And so that's how it parlayed into working for QK4. And from that point, the bosses that I had at QK4 moved me into the office, and I could still do the field work. And a lot of times we'll go back out and pull shots. But from that point on, in 2006, I was more processing files in the office and working in AutoCAD, working in MicroStation. I had never really worked in CAD platforms before that time. I'd seen them done and could draw lines and circles and things like that. But from that point on, both Jim Krauth and one of my other mentors, Keith Crow, put the time and effort into training me on how to use CAD platforms for survey purposes. A lot of people know how to use CAD, or in school they'll take a CAD class, but really they're just modeling mechanical parts and drawing everything at 90 degrees and even distances. And what surveyors know is that nothing is 90 degrees and even distances. So you got to be able to think differently about CAD and modeling than just designing.
Yeah, and on that point, QK4 was selected to be on a team to repair, replace over 1,000 state-owned bridges in Kentucky. In fact, I think the name of the project is Bridging Kentucky, and for that project, you're the survey discipline lead, and you've worked on creating and developing workflows and processes for that project. Talk about that.
Yeah, the state had an inventory of bridges that their inspectors would go out and inspect and find deficiencies, or the bridge may be fine and in good condition, but the load rating on the bridge is not heavy enough to carry fire trucks or school buses or ambulances. So if you can't get an ambulance across the bridge safely, then the people on the other side don't have that support from the county. So the Bridging Kentucky program was put together in order to upgrade the state's infrastructure. And there was 1,000 bridges, a little over 1,000 bridges in the program that had some kind of deficiency, load rating, didn't have rails on it. So Spain in May of 2018, and for the next 24 months until the summer of 2020, we had surveyed 550 bridges.
Wow, that's insane.
And in order to do that, the demand on the survey team was such that you can't spend the time that it would normally take to do a normal bridge survey and cover all of the elements within Kentucky's design memo. So we were given the task. The task was huge, but in order to do that volume of bridges, we were tasked to come up with an efficient process. So we boiled it down to establishing control on every bridge site. So we would use GPS to establish control either by static sessions, using our VRS service here in Kentucky, um, tying into other control if there was control near the site. So establishing control, running a good elevation across the control, and then being able to collect all that is needed for a good bridge design or bridge rehab project, which includes the ground surface. And a lot of times surveyors are really good about picking up ground shots and, edge of pavement, curbs. We do a good job of doing a ground surface. But when it comes to modeling a bridge, that ground surface doesn't cross the bridge deck. So you have to collect the subsurface, or excuse me, the substructure of that bridge and incorporate it into the ground terrain and have one surface go from the top roadway through the abutment, down the creek, across the creek bottom and up the other side, and then separate out the bridge deck and the bridge superstructure from that ground surface. So we put together a process, trained our field crews. We had teaming partners, that survey teams that were a part with us on that program, and trained them to collect bridge in efficient time. Our field crews basically had 2 bridges assigned to them per week. So if you think about establishing control and taking all the necessary shots on a bridge, you have 2 days to do it per bridge. And if one of them is a little more detailed, then maybe 3 days. Come in and download, get your next 2 bridges for the next week. And at one time we had 20 survey crews running 2 bridges per week.
Wow.
And then turning it over. They would download on Friday, and the digital files would go to the CAD processors. They would model both the ground terrain and a deck surface and the low beam member, so that the hydraulic engineers could figure out what the hydraulic opening of the bridge was, so that they weren't backing up streams or causing flooding conditions. And they had 1 week to model that bridge. So we basically gave the field guys a week to collect it and the office guys a week to model it. And then we had bridge assignments that came out every week and had a 2-week expectation turnaround.
Wow. So were you using UAVs also to collect data?
Well, at first, when they put the team together, they said, why don't we terrestrial LiDAR scan every bridge? Okay, we've got scanning capabilities, and we can gather a lot of information for bridges. We can scan each one. The problem is I don't have that many CAD guys that can model a terrestrial laser scan, and the critical information that you're going to model from a terrestrial laser scan can be collected through conventional or traditional means. So if you are using intelligent coding and the field guys know exactly what critical points that they need to shoot, you can collect a bridge faster because the codes are already there to model with. Now, we've probably scanned 100 bridges, because there are some historic bridges that have historic significance. There are some steel truss bridges that we've scanned, some really long span bridges that in scanning, you get the information, critical information, without hanging Larry over the side of the bridge to try and collect some of that data. You can scan it safely. And while you're scanning it, Larry is collecting all the other information, the roadway connections, utilities, under the bridge abutments. One thing that we have done with all of our field crews is at the beginning of that program, we handed them 360-degree cameras so that they could collect a street view essence collection of the bridge. We had them go down the top of the bridge deck with the 360 camera, and then underneath the bridge, because you don't get that from Google. You can't see underneath it. So
Yeah.
for a 360-degree camera walking through, then anyone modeling that bridge can turn the image in any direction to help them see the features to model. So we would say it's not as fast trying to scan every bridge and then bringing it in the office, but it takes a combination of the right tools for each bridge. And we have all the tools for our guys to use. They just have to have the intelligence to know which is best in this situation.
Yeah, and I'm sure, this process wasn't streamlined right from the beginning. It took you some time to get this whole thing figured out. You had to get everybody on the same page, doing the same thing, following procedures like we talked about before. It's so important, especially in an operation like that. And these type surveys, I'm sure, are happening all over the country, just with our aging infrastructure and stuff like that, especially bridges. Oh my gosh. Every time you hear a story about a bridge collapse or something, it's like, wow, so I mean, you should publish a manual to perform these type surveys. I mean, because it sounds like you've actually got it down, no doubt.
Yeah, and survey was only one part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the design engineers had different disciplines as well. So environmental, hydrology, roadway discipline, the structures discipline. So each one of these was a different part. And we did come up with a charter manual for this program here in Kentucky.
Wow.
It is specific to this program, but if one of the options at the beginning when we were looking at how we were going to create an efficient process was if it was law, then we needed to abide by it. But if it was just a preference or a method that was used in collecting the information or designing the information, then those design preferences, if it wasn't law, it was open for scrutiny. And so we were able to trim down the process to create one simple, streamlined collection to design. And then this past year, they have built and constructed more bridges than ever before. So now we're on that construction phase where they're going out and repairing bridges and rehabbing bridges, and it's really helping the state, in my opinion. And
sure.
these aren't really big bridges. Some of these bridges are only 20 feet long. But if a bridge won't hold an emergency vehicle, then it's not good to help the people that are on the other side.
Yep.
So, you would think, it's going to take 2 weeks to collect a big bridge. These are 2-day collection bridges. They're small, but the information that our guys were gathering is important to the designers to make those intelligent decisions.
Yeah. For sure.
When he says like the 20-foot bridges, I think of that old computer game. Remember the Oregon Trail?
Oh yeah.
Where they like went through and your cart falls
Yeah.
over. Like if only there was a 20-foot bridge here, we would have been fine.
Well, especially when you say 1,000 of them. I mean,
Yeah.
1,000
Oh,
of
my
them.
goodness.
They've got to. Some of them got to be small because that'd be a hell of a program.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, okay.
Some of them are deep in Kentucky, so that's where I've signed these surveys for. Our company did probably 350 out of the 550 bridges in every corner of the state.
Wow.
And when the high volume times, I would go out and collect a bridge with my crew or go out and scan a bridge with them. And sometimes you drive 30, 40 minutes to get to a hotel to stay that night.
Few miles on the trucks at the end of this project.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, in 1785, that was the beginning of the Public Land Survey System, PLSS, which Kentucky did not adopt. Can you explain or talk about what it's like to survey in a meets and bounds state?
Yeah, so back at that time, Kentucky was still a part of Virginia. And Virginia was one of the original colonies, so it's meets and bounds. Uh, we don't have section corners that we have to tie to. And really, the roads in Kentucky are not straight. They're wherever the buffalo tamped down a path, and then they put gravel on it and put wagons across it, and then they put asphalt on it, and that's what we're driving on. Meets and bounds is in some ways easier because you don't have to tie back to reference corners that establish a reference frame from centuries back. But in some ways, it's more difficult because you don't have those reference corners to tie to. And growing up in Michigan, I remember, going through cornfields with my dad and finding section corners and breaking down the section. And then when I worked in Florida, uh, we would tie to corners, and you always knew you were on the right track when you're cutting line through the woods and you see all of the small limbs that are growing up around, and okay, somebody's been here before and cut this line. At least I know I'm on the right path here. So I've worked in both systems. The meets and bounds just means that you are going to research the property as it is and the neighboring properties around it to look for those overlaps or gaps. And we have a lot of those. You can imagine the deed descriptions that we've got in Eastern Kentucky that are just bounded by Jones on the north and bounded by Smith on the east, and you got to figure that out and climbing hills to get to it. And really it comes down to communicating with the property owners and gathering all of that parole evidence to figure out what property they feel they own, and then working it out.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I worked in Southern Illinois for a number of years, and the company I worked for did a bunch of work in like Paducah area and that type thing. So we had a Kentucky registrant, and I can just remember reading some of those legal descriptions, and I was like, what? Start at Farmer John's tractor axle behind the 20-inch oak tree and go whatever. It's just crazy stuff. But I guess if you understand it, I don't know. It's crazy, but
a lot of it is finding what features are still there, and a lot of times they'll follow a natural monument, so the creek or the ridge or something like that. So, and now with the way that we can use statewide mapping and aerial images and topo maps, you can be surprised at how well things fit on those maps. You get a good idea of what you're looking for before you even have to go out there and start climbing the hills.
Well, it sounds to me like it would be an absolute nightmare to get two surveyors in that case to agree on something. It's already hard enough in a in a PLSS state. So it makes me think about something though. There's been a lot of chatter about a coordinate-based cadastre, and I would think that a situation like a meets and bounds state, it would work great for. Once that corner has been established and it has a coordinate, whether it be a latitude, longitude, whatever, it doesn't move. I mean, that's that. I mean, what do you think about that idea?
Yes, I love it. And really, in our Bridging Kentucky program, I told our guys that the control pin that we set in the ground, really, it doesn't have to be there anymore. We can pull that pin and go back to the coordinate. So when we were writing survey reports for the control on all of these bridges, I told them that the survey coordinate is the control. We made sure that we're tying to a reference frame, and then that reference frame guides what coordinate point that bridge is set on. So we want to make sure all of our information that we were collecting is tied to a reference frame, and that is repeatable. Somebody, even the contractors now will have GPS and can go back to the coordinate point to find the control point there, and they can use the control point that's in the ground, or they can know with confidence that the control coordinate is where they should build the bridge
Yep.
moving forward. I do like the PLS system because it has, in my opinion, accurately carried the location of legal descriptions for centuries. But it also now is a separate reference frame from state plane coordinates. So you have to make a decision. Are you going to hold a coordinate point based on a reference frame state plane coordinate, or even now that we're getting into low distortion coordinate systems and having a lot of different coordinate systems around the state, you have to make a choice. Am I going to hold or reconcile the section ties with a state plane coordinate and now with an updated low distortion coordinate?
Yep.
Which one did add? And, we run into that with DOT surveying. If the DOT is using the project datum, and if that project datum, where's the origin point for their scaling? And it just takes intelligence to go back and look at how the data was collected and established to begin with. But really, surveyors are the best ones that do that because we're documenting that information and tying it to the project. A lot of times the engineers, they don't know, what the coordinates doesn't really matter to them. They're designing based on the base map that they give you. But the surveyors are vigilant to go back and check and make sure I can reference a survey report that shows where the location of this control and where the location of this project is. And for centuries, they did it based on PLS, and you could break down a section and know exactly where you are.
Yep.
Not practicing in a PLS state, I'm not quick on. Some guys will know, section 6, northeast quarter corner. He knows exactly where that is, like the back of his hand.
Yep.
Which is great. And you can know precisely what you're dealing with before you ever get out there on site. But now with mapping the way that it is, and statewide collections and aerial image, we really have a much easier job than those guys that had to figure it all out back before.
I agree.
What I think, one thing though, I'm waiting for the latitude and longitude to really come on board.
Great.
Because with all the state plane coordinate systems, we go with a low distortion coordinate system, but it's still a 2-dimensional representation of that coordinate. So there's still a projection involved.
Yep. Yeah.
The data collectors handle latitude and longitude and ortho height. If we're collecting things on a 3D sphere that the globe is, I would say let's just go to a straight latitude, precise latitude, longitude, and orthometric height.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that would be a fairly simple solution for that. And I mean, even though, our job may seem easier now than, the folks that were trying to figure this out in the beginning, it's also more complicated because of the technology, because of the different projections, because of the different geoids, U.S. feet, international feet, which of course that's going to change here in a year or so. It gets very complicated. At some points you're like, I got to be a freaking geodesist to figure out some of this stuff, and it's not everybody has that level of intelligence. And I'm not saying that I do, but there's so many opportunities. If something's not set up properly in the data collector, like you mentioned, as far as projections and stuff like that, the whole thing could go to shit, really.
I feel like it might not, but Ben does. He has the
exactly.
intelligence to figure it out. I'll give him the credit.
I agree. So what does it take to become a licensed surveyor in Kentucky? Is there an education requirement?
There is an education requirement. They enacted the education requirement in 2010. So either you can have a 4-year degree and then meet a certain minimum on the number of survey credits that you have in order to sit for the exam. When I took the exam in 2000, took my LSIT in 2006, and I was able to take it based on experience alone, which really helped me. And I took the tests, I studied for them, spent the time to put into it and passed them. And then moving forward, if I would have taken that exam after 2010, I would have had to go back to school.
Yep.
I understand that the schools, and really I think the schools are doing all that they can to educate the students. The problem is the volume of students aren't there.
Hmm.
So then programs close out because you can't have a program and 4 students attend a university in land surveying.
Yep.
But with the requirements, and before this year, really there weren't the online options for land surveyors to get credits to work. If some guy had 10 years experience, he would still have to go back to school, get the credits, and then be able to apply to take the test. I would say we have ways of testing for the intelligence that a guy brings into that testing center. And for years of experience, if they are making calculations and know with confidence the calculations that they're making, then they're going to answer right on the test. Add in their cadastre, add in GPS, add in new technology questions so that we can test the intelligence of the guys taking the tests. I would even say let the guys take their data collector in there with them. I would say they can do everything on the data collector and calculate those points. And when they're out practicing their license, they're going to be using those tools.
Yep.
You know, when I took the exam, I had to buy an HP 33 because my 48 was not allowed. They didn't want me bringing in the software
Yep.
to calculate a traverse and balance my angles. So that was the only time I used that HP 33 was for the exams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if you listened to the episode. We had Tim Birch on, I don't know, 2 or 3 episodes ago. And he came up, I don't know if he came up with the idea, but he brought up an idea of like a tiered examination for surveyors, which I never thought of it. But when he said it, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. You know, there's a national exam, and then there's, you know, different levels of exams that surveyors can take to be able to perform certain professional services.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think of that idea?
Part of the problem is that each state has their own law.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, property law that is associated with individual states. So it has to happen at the legislative level. And some states will let surveyors do subdivision design or drainage, or you got to pass hydrology in order to get your survey license.
Mm-hmm.
And there are specific specialized fields that tie into different survey licenses already. The problem is there's 50 different, you know, licenses that you got to go down and boil down to each specific law.
Mm-hmm.
I think as a nation, if we can make one uniform property law, it would be up to the clients then making sure that the person practicing and doing the survey is qualified in that area and they know what they're doing. That's the other thing. You get a lot of cowboys out there. You know, I'm in Kentucky, but I've got a license to practice in Texas. And if I can get a job in Texas, I'll just fly in, do my job, write up the plat, deliver it, not really knowing what that state has. So I understand that there are problems not knowing the laws in particular states. But if we can get to a national standard and even have that national standard for certain property conveyances or property, plats, we have a standard through Alta, and the partnership that NSPS has built with Alta has created national standards, and those standards are dependent on the state standard. So you can do this Alta survey and make sure that it meets the state standards. But I can pull up any state minimum standards from my office now and know this survey is abiding by this state standard. And
Yeah.
if I'm making my checks and doing my due diligence and making sure that I'm covering all of the checks and balances and meet that standard, then it takes the surveyor that can do that. And the surveyors that aren't going to be confident aren't going to be marketing their services nationwide.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. No question. So you and I kind of pretty much took the same path to licensure, and that's basically the longest path possible, and that's through experience. So I think I can speak for you in saying that, we understand the importance of mentoring. We talk about this a lot, I know, and there's a Facebook page called The Field Crew. Free plug, don't get used to it. And I follow that page pretty closely, and the reason I do is just to generate content, honestly, for the podcast. I never respond to anything just because of I'll probably get pummeled for my I guess my opinions on things. But there's a lot of negative stuff being posted on there, like party chiefs running their rodman into their instrument operator into the ground, the instrument operator running the party chief into the ground, the field or the office guy doing the calcs running the party chief into the ground, the party chief running the office guy into the ground. There's so much of this going on. It drives me absolutely freaking insane. What are your thoughts on the state of the profession right now?
I think in some ways we're getting very lean because technology allows one guy to go out and survey, gather more information than ever before. I can load up the equipment in the back of my Jeep and take it out to a site, and I'll have a scanner running at the same time that I'm collecting with GPS.
Yep.
And I can double up efforts. We give all of our crews, we normally run 2-man crews unless we're doing work where we need a third person out there for safety. But I give both my crew members a data collector so that if one guy can be capturing data with the total station and taking shots robotic, then the other guy can be collecting utility locations with GPS or soft shots or gathering other information. We've become so lean and efficient that it makes it difficult to need that extra person. But then I think our rates are really low to where, as a profession, we need to focus more on the workforce. And the only way that we can train people, I believe, to do it right is through experience. So I would say have an intelligent test that tests somebody's experience, but make an experience still a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
I understand having the education and the credits, and now with options going out there and taking classes online, somebody can do that. I know that the schools that like Parkland, if they're offering classes online, I know Middle Tennessee State has a program that if a surveyor is attending classes, he can do all of it online if he works for another surveyor. And those options are out there. But I also know that there are guys that are competent and intelligent that could take the exam and pass it, except they're excluded out because of requirements. Now, surveyors and office staff and, the whole back and forth between, one guy's getting crapped on and the office guy is more intelligent and you're just a lazy crew guy, that I think will always happen. You have that in any industry. What helps, or at least I've been trying to incorporate with our guys, is the crew guys can see how their information is being processed and even run their field to finish. They're doing pulling deeds and drafting up deed plots on their own so that there isn't a competition between field and office staff. It would be great if everyone knew how to gather the information in the field, knew how to process it, and then knew how to draft up the final delivery or model what they're delivering. And if they were all licensed, then they're going to be able to handle clients on their own. And for my guys, I would hand the clients to them and say, the best way that you're going to understand what this client needs is if you have the conversation with him and you go out and gather the information and then put it into a drawing the way he wants it and hand it over to him. Right now, we have to have a licensed surveyor that's managing that in a responsible way. And I don't want to get away from not having a responsible land surveyor that makes those decisions. But I think we can bring field and office, merge them together, and bring them on a path to making those intelligent decisions. We've just started at our company encouraging our guys to do the CST exams. That is a great way of getting that kind of knowledge. It's free to study for. You do have a fee to take the exam, but we found that in the downtimes when the guys are either coming in, it's raining, they can't be out there working, they can be learning some of these things on the CST. So we've started encouraging all of our guys to get some level of certification. And I think going through some level of certification lets them know, okay, I can understand this information. And the next step would be take a class in it, get enough credits, sit for the exam, and pass it.
Yeah, no question. I think that, and you touched on it a little bit there, I think that technology is literally changing the face of the profession. I was just talking to a friend of the program, Aaron Mikolenko, the other day, and he is like yourself, Ben. I mean, I consider him an expert at data collection, and he will send out one guy, and he's got a GPS, a drone, and a scanner. And he collects so much data, brings all that information back to the office, and then, Aaron deciphers it and comes up with a collective, I guess, deliverable that's second to none. He's got so much data involved in it. So, the face of the profession is definitely changing. So you sent us something that I thought was really, really interesting. And, I always ask people, especially surveyors, what do you tell, like when somebody asks you what you do, what do you tell them? Because 98% of this world doesn't know what a land surveyor does. So what you said was, and I love this, when somebody asks you what you do, you say that you're a high definition 3D digital terrain modeler who creates virtual reality models of existing environments for design engineers. I love that.
That sounds way cooler than land surveyor.
Absolutely.
And it uses some buzzwords, right? Like
Yeah.
virtual reality, things that people understand and they know,
Jake might even start using that when somebody asks him what he does.
We're going to see your
Yeah,
resume
that's
is going to have that.
you got to have your own
Exactly.
elevator speech,
Yeah.
describe what you do in 30 seconds, but change somebody's perspective on what you do. Now, I do normally follow up and say, I'm a high definition digital terrain modeler, a land surveyor.
Yeah.
This is what my land surveyor job is what allows me to become the digital modeler. And we are, doing VR environments. We're working with some clients that use it, some clients that don't. But if you don't have that value add, to throw out a geoholics term, bringing value to your clients, if you don't have that kind of add on your surveys, then you are not going to set yourself apart from anyone.
Absolutely.
So changing the perception of people that I talk to who might not know what a land surveyor does, but you throw out some of those terms that are hot and, in the culture now, and people know about phones. And really, I think LiDAR is going to take a big jump because people are going to buy it and not know what it is.
Yep.
And then they're going to use it, and then they're going to figure out, oh, people have been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
And
more people already know what it is now than 4 weeks ago before that phone came out.
Oh, no question, no question. I actually saw on that Field Crew Facebook page today somebody had posted some stuff that they've done with their iPhone 12 Pro or whatever it is, with the LiDAR, and it's awesome. It's incredible. It really is. Yeah.
So with your awesome description and the passion you're clearly showing for a lifetime of this career, on the daily, what motivates you? And this question's coming. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
Yeah, my motivation comes I try to make every survey better than the previous one. So, I like making my survey plats look nice. I have given a session here in Kentucky for our association called Plat Design, incorporating graphic design elements within plat design. And then, don't just settle for the AutoCAD standard, text styles and the standard. When you fire up AutoCAD out of the box, it will put text on your plat. But if I look at a plat and I see those text styles, I think, oh, this guy is so not using the potential of AutoCAD. So I would say driving to make things better.
Yep.
I've thought about the mantra question because you ask all your guests that. One of my mantras is love your wife and love your life. And that comes from Ephesians 5. And I appreciate the way that you guys describe your wives. So I've started calling my wife the lovely Angela. So to, throw out another Geoholics, I think it really is a nice way to show what value you have to them. I think if my wife and I, if we're on the same page, then life is good.
Yep.
And so that would be a mantra that I'm living by.
Yep, I love that one. I mean, and I say it all the time, behind every great man is an even better woman. So that's awesome.
I always go with the happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
That's a
I
classic.
remember it from
Yeah.
like Don Rickles' book, and I was like, wow, I didn't expect that out of him.
Yeah. I'm just glad to hear we're making a positive impact.
Exactly.
I know. I like the incorporation of a couple of Geoholics buzzwords.
Yeah, no question.
We're finally making it, boys.
Absolutely. So, Ben, I think we're kind of at the end of our rope here as far as what we were hoping to cover with you. Is there anything that we maybe have not asked or something you want to get out there?
Yeah, I've got a whole list of Geoholics questions that I think the general Geoholic population wants to know.
All right.
So you guys weren't ready for this, and I didn't prep you with the questions that I was ready to ask.
I'm outside my comfort
I was
zone.
going to say,
You know
last
that.
time we did this, it did not go well for me.
With the Geoholics logo thumbnail, the little photo.
I will give 110% of the credit to producer Jake.
That's actually funny that you asked that, because while we were recording here, it popped up on my phone, and I was actually going through, because we had actually talked about changing it a couple months ago, loosely, but it was something that had to stick. I think that it was something that popped up, and I made it within maybe 30 minutes of when we started a year or so ago, and it really has stuck. I mean, we use it with everything. It's funny. Obviously, the people that aren't on the thumbnail are not Kent and Ryan.
Right.
And it's kind of just stuck ever since. And I don't anticipate it probably ever changing.
No way.
And you know what's funny? I mean, I think, I guess I'm going to pat myself in the back a little bit, but I think I have a pretty good feel for stuff like that. And when Jake sent that to me for the first time, I literally got a chill down the back of my spine. And I'm like, oh my God, that is freaking gold right there.
And really, and what it is it's just like a stock total station land surveyor photo that we put a black and white filter on and threw some text over. But I mean, it's one of those things that kind of just stuck from there.
I like the way he says we, but there was no
it was
we
all
in
Jake.
this.
He
It was
just
all
sent it out.
producer
We were
Jake.
like, yeah, okay, good.
Yeah.
And it really, in my head, going back when it was created, it was supposed to it was something, if you guys remember, when we applied for our Apple Podcast account, we needed some sort of artwork.
Yep.
So it was just, in my head, it was something to be temporary until we could figure out a more permanent solution. But here we are, and it is the permanent solution.
It just fits. It fits the vibe of the show very well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's not the stock photo. Like a lot of things that I see on LinkedIn, if they're trying to promote, one of their employees that got an award or something, they'll have that guy standing on a blank white wall, just holding up his certificate in front of him.
Yeah.
I would rather take a meaningful picture of the way that the guy looks happy instead of just the mugshot against things. So the stuff that I post on LinkedIn, I try and say, okay, is this photo valuable for somebody? It's going to catch somebody's attention. It's not just a standard, flat shot that doesn't mean anything. So any of my social media, I try and tell my guys, and really I've got one guy that's out there taking pictures in the field because he works in the field. And I say, you are the only person that can take that photo. There might not have been somebody in that spot for decades, but you're standing there, take an interesting shot and then put it up. But I think there can be some fatigue by throwing up every shot that you take on your phone and them not being worth it. So your Geoholics logo is distinctive. It makes people think, okay, you know, what's going on here, and draws people in. I think that is important.
And I think
one thing I realized about marketing survey is that surveyors don't ever take good media. But if we just spent a little bit of time to add to the photo, you know, take an interesting perspective. I told one of our drone operators, instead of just taking the drone shots to create the Pix4D map, spend 10 minutes more and take 10 more photos of an interesting perspective of that project. Because you're already there. You can take an extra few shots. You've got the equipment. You're already there.
Yeah, you're already up in the air.
Yeah, exactly. The only other thing I'll add on that question is, I think another thing that logo captures really well is it's funny, right? I mean, I look at it and it puts a smile on my face, and I think it shows that we don't take it too serious. You know what I mean? We're having a good
what
time.
you're getting into.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. What else you got?
Okay, so the other one is, I'm wondering, now that you guys have reached your total downloads goal, and now that you are influencers in the Geoholics podcast, like, where does it go from here? I understand it probably started out, we're having conversations, why don't we do a podcast? We can include, you know, some stories from other surveyors, but from the sounds of it, and we've listened to all the podcasts, you guys are excited and kind of amazed at what it's turned into. What would you like the Geoholics to influence moving forward?
Well, I mean, I can tell you this, and I've told this story many times when, well, gosh, about a year and a half ago now, probably a year and a half ago.
Feels like yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan and I are both, you know, into podcasts, and I just said, you know, what do you think about doing a podcast that has to do with, you know, geomatics? I'm like, because I did some research, couldn't find anything out there, and that's just kind of how it all started. We talked about it for a couple months, you know, had great ideas, but we just didn't know how to get the ideas from our brains into, you know, the webosphere or whatever. So we were at a family gathering, and as you probably know, producer Jake dates my youngest daughter. He's essentially part of the family at this point. And we were at a family gathering, and I'm like, Jake, you know, me and my buddy Ryan are thinking about doing a podcast. Do you know anything about that? And he's like, oh my God, I just happen to have a soundboard in my trunk, and
because everybody does.
I'm looking for a reason to use it, you know, and it just freaking exploded from there. And it's gotten to the point now, I mean, it has literally taken on a life of its own. But as it does that, for me personally, it just motivates me that much more to, again, provide value and make friends. You know, where do I want this to go? I want it to be a community, to be honest with you, the Geoholics community. And yes, we have sponsors, friends of the program and stuff like that, but I am always, I mean, we all are. We're always looking at ways to make connections to better everybody we come in contact with. And, you know, I think that with our humility and our focus on doing just that, you know, Glenn Abramowski, episode 6, add value, make friends.
Stuck.
It couldn't have stuck. He couldn't have said it any better, you know, and that encapsulates everything we're trying to do.
And as much as this COVID-19 thing has been horrible, it's kind of expanded our horizons with this Zoomosphere and getting guests from outside of just this local Arizona area. That's been huge.
Yeah. How many different countries have we been able? I mean, last week even with Gary, like Ireland, Australia, like these different places that
Germany.
Yeah, Germany.
It's crazy.
These places that we probably wouldn't have bet, because towards the beginning we were focused more on the in-person stuff, but now this more remote world that we were forced into has really broadened where we were able to connect to. And with Bob a couple weeks ago too, seeing how many interactions and impressions that these things are getting online, and how much people are taking away, it really is a train that's kind of running away, and we're just on it.
And it is kind of cool when you're just around and you talk to people. Like I was talking to a guy today, and I was like, he was like, "Oh, are you on the Geoholics?" I was like, "Yeah, how'd you know that?" And he was like, "I thought I recognized the name and the voice," and I was like, "Oh,
Big
wow, that's
shoots?
odd."
You had a name tag on.
No. It was on the phone. I was like, "Wow, I guess this voice is distinctive."
Yeah.
So that was
That's
kind of
awesome.
cool. And then
Well, I
Yeah.
do also appreciate that it's not just survey stuff.
Yeah.
Having the wine episode and
Yeah.
talking curling and other things, but like the survey hooks, and then it gives you a break every once in a while to be
Exactly.
off survey and just share life.
No,
So it is nice. I'm glad that you guys keep it loose and that it's not just go through the agenda of survey this and hit only survey
Yep.
issues. So
if
Yeah,
that was
it's
all we
good.
did, I would have quit months ago.
Yeah, and let's face it, that could get really boring really fast. But at the same time, we do seek out interesting guests as well.
Yeah,
and
if you have a story about something, we want to talk to you.
yeah, exactly. And we're always looking for what's the hot topic in the industry, whether it be photogrammetry or this or that or whatever. Let's get somebody on who's an expert in that, and let's talk about it.
Yeah, whether it be gold medalists, people that have sailed around the world. Like if you have something that's valuable
Yep.
and we can ask you about it, like let's get you on the phone and let's talk.
Yeah, and what's cool is, again, it's taken on a life of its own. When I reach out to, who knows, a Class C celebrity, let's say, it's like, hey, we'd love to get you on the podcast. I can say, we've had 25,000 downloads, and that adds value in their mind immediately. Like, oh, okay, these guys aren't some slouches. Maybe it is worth my time. So,
Absolutely.
and that's how some of these other odd, not survey guests got on the show, and that was something we talked about. It's like, we're not going to be able to talk about,
Plumb bobs and
plumb
chains.
bobs,
Total
and chains
stations.
forever. That's great in the beginning. We had Abraham Lincoln on. it was a freaking blast. But I mean, we just want to provide value.
And so
at
many
all
of the
costs.
outside of the box guests do stem from folks like with
Yeah.
Cam, like
Oh,
that
Cam,
was
yeah.
someone that it started
Michael
from
Thompson.
it started from a survey conversation with Michael Thompson
Yep.
that then generated a non-survey interesting story
Absolutely,
somewhere else.
absolutely. And Michael Thompson, for example, he knows this guy that's on the World Poker Tour, and we're gonna have him on, after the first of the year,
boy.
and it's just stuff like that. I mean,
It breaks it up.
We have a guest on, they have an enjoyable experience, and then they're like, hey, you know what? I think this guy would be a great guest for you guys. And that's just kind of how this stuff is happening. It's pretty amazing, honestly.
It's been cool, and we've single-handedly influenced at least one other local person to start her own podcast, a former guest of the program.
Yep.
She gave us a shout-out on our first one, Moving Arizona, shameless plug for her. She did it for us.
Yep.
And
Yep.
she's gaining traction in that, so
Yeah.
we're just innovators,
Right on.
boys.
Yeah.
It's all great.
Now that we've sufficiently patted ourselves on the back, I think we got.
We don't get a chance to do that often. We'll do that like our year-end episode, the reflection. We'll drink a bunch of beer and
get emotional, cry a little bit.
yeah, there you go. But and we generally like each other. I think that probably has something to do with it.
Just a little bit,
Yeah.
probably.
It helps.
Yeah,
It
we
helps.
can tell.
Yeah.
Everyone listening in knows with the banter that goes on that
Yeah.
there isn't any drama that goes on.
No. Yeah.
We don't have time for that.
Yeah. Yeah. But you got anything else, Ben?
No, I'm good.
All right,
Awesome.
man.
Thank you so much.
That's awesome. Thanks again for taking the time to be with us. Hopefully you'll come back on again.
Yeah, and anytime, I'm doing more looking for ways to connect nationally.
Mhm.
So anytime I'm out west,
Yep.
I'm going to be looking for you guys. So
Yep. We'd love to see you. That'd be great. All right. Well, that's a wrap, folks, as we say in the biz.
Oh, we're in the biz.
Yep. Check us out at thegeoholics.com. Follow us on all the reputable social media outlets by searching for The Geoholics. Download all our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, and, of course, download the Geoholics app from Land Surveyors United. Email us at info@thegeoholics if you're interested in being a friend of the program or a guest on a future show. We're booking into February, if you can believe that. Switchfoot, Afterlife, available everywhere. Please don't forget to support our friends of the program every chance you get. Pay it forward. Add value, make friends. Rest in peace, Alex Trebek.
Oh man, I forgot to bring that one up. That was a tough one.
Yeah, most importantly, be safe and healthy, everyone.
right. Once again, thank you to our friends of the program, Bad Elf GPS. Find them at bad-elf.com. Land Surveyors United, landsurveyorsunited.com. LiDAR News at lidarnews.com. Parkland College Land Survey Program, parkland.edu/surveying. Unifly, unifli.aero. Diamondback Land Surveying at diamondbacklandsurveying.com. Advanced Geodetic Surveys at agsgps.com. Tiger Supplies at tigersupplies.com. Cyanic Automation at getjobbook.com. Safety Apparel, you can find them at safetyapparel.us. And finally, Get Kids Into Survey at getkidsintosurvey.com.